That's the most hyped song. Yeah, I enjoy that one. Either way, good morning. It's Friday, April 1st. This is going to be no joke. I'm going to use that twice today, by the way. If you're watching
can't
now
use it twice.
and you're watching for SBL, I'm absolutely using that again. And I don't feel any remorse about it, Scoremaster and Mifflin.
You at least don't tell them you're going to use it twice.
I'm actively letting you know to expect this not really great joke twice.
What if
today.
I take it, the second one?
I'd speak first.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it is April 1st. That is not a joke.
Well, but yeah, you're right. It's Friday, the 1st of April. All right. We're getting into SEC. It's going to be Europe. The Ravens taking on HEX MAMBO. That's what we're going to be watching today. The last set of Europe this week. Mifflin, I do have a question for you, though.
Yep.
This is a Southern thing that I learned because I asked my wife about it. She had no idea that it was a thing. Do you and did you grow up with the idea that saying rabbit, rabbit as the first thing you said on the first of a month was good luck?
No.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Like, nah.
So what I've
Did
learned...
you wake up today and say rabbit, rabbit?
Yes, I do it every first of the month. It has been ingrained into me by my dad. Every morning,
Gore, I love
if you didn't say it at morning, he would come down. He'd be like, "Oh, did you say rabbit, rabbit today?" And you'd be like, "Oh, no, I forgot." And that was our morning. And then we'd have breakfast and go to school.
You
and
got
stuff.
memed by your dad.
I've looked it up. He did not just mess with me. Either way, we're going to look at the schedule. Europe is where we're hanging out today. And again, we're going to be closing out the region. A lot of 2-0s in Europe. A lot of 2-1s in North America yesterday. The Aarhus Scorpions lost there to the Gilded Gladiators. We watched the Niflheim Wargs. It was actually me and you who did watch the Niflheim Wargs beat the Styx Ferrymen. And today, the HEX MAMBO taking on the Highland Ravens. Now, Mifflin, I'm also going to bring up something that you said yesterday in a tweet at you that disagreed. You had said that the Styx Ferrymen had the coolest logo. And I was prone to agree with you until I saw the full Highland Ravens
Yeah, the
logo.
full one is so sick.
That one
baited.
I would actually get as a tattoo, legitimately. That looks really, really cool. Maybe without the name. I'd get the Raven part,
Just the
though.
bird.
I absolutely,
It's
like,
over there
think
behind
about
Gore.
it, across your back. It would look absolutely incredible, right?
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't seen the full logo either. It is very nice.
It is.
Yeah,
Now,
so
I will
guess that
say,
guy's right. That guy
Styx
was
Ferryman
right.
is a cool name.
Definitely a good
Shout-outs
name.
to Mike.
Shouts Mike.
That's
That's our stage manager.
Yes. We love Mike here.
We sure do.
And you should love Mike, too. Either way, the Ravens, team behind me, cool logo, fun name. It's a very familiar team, Mifflin. It's Mogao, it's Rapio, it's SAP7, Silenced and Vaporish Coast. And I think a lot of these guys have had a lot of, tenured experience, whether it's across SCL, if you look over towards Coast, or if you look in just, the minor league. Mogao has been around for a long time in terms of competitive history, yeah. And I think it's going to be fun to watch them. SAP7's actually, out of all the names on this, there's so many familiar ones. SAP7's the one that stands out to me because I remember it was either last year or 2 years ago. No idea who this guy is. Locks in Vulcan, and I'm just sitting there, ready to clown on him because it's like, man, some no-name locks in Vulcan in the SCC. What's going to happen? He has one of the most phenomenal Vulcan games that I've seen in the SCC, and has cemented his name in my brain.
Yeah, this whole squad, I think, is very entertaining to watch because of the pacing of the game. It is a distinctly European team in that they like to play a slower pace despite having some early game picks. I'm talking about like that game last season where we saw Rapio wait until 26 minutes into a game on Thanatos Jungle to decide to get involved, and he gets involved by picking up a pentakill immediately. Literally 0 damage, straight into a penta. So, I'm expecting a slower pace to today.
Yeah. Well, here's the question I have for you. If you're taking a slower pace, can you take a slower pace against a team like HEX MAMBO that has just some names like Trix Tank and Zeros and Johnnies?
Oh, okay.
Echrome. Itori might be like the least tenured of all. Echrome, I think, had a phenomenal performance last year. I think Itori has had some really, really good performances over the last couple of years. But the 3-piece core in the middle here, that's a lot to handle here on the Mambo. So, you know what? I think it's going to be a fun match to watch, to say the least. But I do pose the question, can you slow down against them? Do they even allow that?
Well, considering specifically Trix Tank plays with Wild Abandon, he doesn't seem to care about map state or like what's happening or what's going on around him. He's just going to hit buttons better than the majority of other people, and he plays very aggressive picks. It is going to be difficult to slow down the pace against this team. But that has been the win condition against these Trix Tank Zero squads for the last couple of years. So maybe it really is a conversation of which team is able to establish the pace, maintain it, and make sure that their game plan comes through And I'm a huge proponent. I've always been a huge proponent of early game pressure. I think it's the only way to get your hands on the levers of power in a match. If you go for a scaling style composition against a team that is trying to bring early game presence, it's not up to you whether or not you get to that late game scale. It's just withstand the efforts of the opposition. I like to be the guy who's proactive. I don't want to be the reactive player. I think anytime you're able to get the ball rolling, that's the right way to play. And HEX MAMBO, certainly a team that loves to get the ball rolling, and they do it quickly.
Now, I'm going to give you a take, and I want to get your opinion on this one. Because I seen Heimdall locked in, and, you know, Coast has a really good Heimdall. I think Ekrom has a really good Heimdall. We were talking about it, I believe, yesterday as well. Like, I think Streak Up, Spudio all have really good Heimdalls. When I'm talking about almost exclusively European players, and so my take on this, I'm willing to go out there and say I think Europe might have the better Heimdall of the, like, if you go EU versus NA. Like, just more players over there are better at Heimdall than North America.
Yeah, I think it kind of plays hand in hand with the cultural difference in how they approach the match, right? Like, the ADCs like to play a little bit slower in the lane in Europe. They like to play for that late game scaling. They want to get their items online before they really go for those 1v1s. There was a meta where both North America and Europe had to play the Jingweis and the Heimdalls of the world, but I feel like Europe a little bit more so held on to the Heimdall. They've been practicing it a little bit more consistently. Whether or not I'm willing to say that they've got the best Heimdalls, maybe. I mean, Spudio comes to mind, Vaporish Coast comes to mind, but like, Snoopy's over there in North America.
Yeah.
We got like Guy J.
Is Guy J like a nuts Heimdall?
Guy J is just like a nuts ADC.
Guy J was like real good at ROM when he played it in the SPL.
Real good at ROM,
and
real
he
good
got
at
to
Hoi.
pretty much only play those two in the
Ranger
SPL.
Autos, you're pretty good at anything, I think.
Good point. Maybe that's the key here. We can catch up on the drafts. Heimdall, Osiris, Kumbhakarna locked in there for the Ravens. Persephone, Fafnir, Habwa, and Kleena. So Kleena, first off, went from like a must-ban #1 pick literally all week, and then this set, she makes it down to 7th. That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. And I think it is going to be Kleena in the soul lane as well. So it's not going to be that traditional Kleena jungle that's going to get
Arise, my child!
I am surprised that she sees such a lack of priority, maybe a lack of respect, the better term, but we are playing on the newest patch, and in the newest patch we've seen a sweeping change to the jungle, and that Habwa jungle has become very popular.
Real good.
Now water spout no longer self-roots, so you can just keep moving. When you're on the water carpet, you are gliding, applying your damage as well, so your scaling doesn't take too long anymore. He's no longer that late game, now I can start dealing damage because you can skip boots and immediately get some of those high priority items online early. I like this draft from HEX MAMBO.
I'm vibing with it as well. I think it's one of those things that's really fun because I never realized how much I hated that self-root on the 3 until I got to play without it, and how freeing that feels all of a sudden when you're just like, oh my god, you're right. And look, I have to, anytime a Hebo gets any changes, I have to go in and touch him just because he's the one who got me into the game. I have the respect for him, so I have to make sure to maintain.
You downloaded SMITE for Hebo.
When I was watching someone, a YouTube group, play SMITE, and they were playing Hebo. And I thought, that looks really fun. And so I got the game. I saw he wasn't immediately available. And so I went, cool, bought the battle pass, and was like, let's just do this thing.
That's easy.
Yeah, or not the battle pass, the god pass. There were no battle pass back then, because I'm old.
Okay. Fair enough.
We'll see whether or not this comp can live up to the hype that we have behind it. Here in game #1 is the Highland Ravens take on HEX MAMBO. This is the battle of a really cool logo versus a really cool name. And honestly, Highland Ravens is a pretty cool name as well. So realistically,
they should just win?
Yeah, both teams should win. Everybody's happy.
That's just simply not how SMITE works.
Both teams can't win?
No.
What happens if you kill the Titan but together?
Like, what do you, like
if the Titan was like, yeah, the Titan was, if both Titans were at one hit.
Can't happen.
And you both auto, yeah, you're right, because the server's going to register one before the other.
Yeah.
I did computer science. Hey. Either way, Mifflin, I don't know what kind of energy I'm bringing with you, and it's only 11 in the morning. We still have the SPL to go later. Either way, this is going to be fun to watch. Khepri gets locked in. Kind of glanced over that one. I also didn't even register it was locked in on the team that had the Kumba and the Osiris already in there. So it is a Kumba solo, which if it was literally anybody that was not Mogao, I think is a huge, heavy talking point. Probably still should be. But Mogao likes playing things like this.
Yeah, Moga is going to play the Kabrakins, the Kumbhakarnas, just Guardians in general. He likes Jormungandr. It's a very different style. I think that he really does, Lamogao that is, value survivability in the lane, and, well, Kumbhakarna is going to bring exactly that. You've also got a decent matchup in Aklina in that she's not really ever going to be allowed to channel that first ability for the silence. You're generally going to be able to sleep her out of it, or at least just walk away, something like that to disrupt her. Generally, though, you're not going to see her max out that ability first in lane. It's going to be either the Flickering Visions or the dash just for superior clear. So I don't think Itori going to be too concerned about the lane matchup. It's more so which one of these guys is going to scale harder, which one of them is going to make a larger impact in the late game team fight, because neither one of them really has got a whole lot of kill pressure.
And they bring like different things, right? Late game, you look at Klina and it's like, cool, you've got damage, you've got setup potential, you know, to an extent where most of your setup potential is, hey, you walked through a wall, screamed at them real loud, and did some, again, started the damage up to kick things off. Kumba's like, all right, I'm going to knock this guy into the air, I'm going to root that guy, mez this dude. You've got a lot more traditional Guardian setup coming down from Mogao, so that'll be fun to watch. He also does, Kumba does like a sneaky amount of damage, not enough that it's going to be like anything to overshadow the mid laners, but, you know, enough that you're going to have to pay attention to him. Johnny's going to be on the Habwa. Johnny is one of the more fantastic junglers we got to watch in the SCC, 2 years ago? We got to watch him a lot of fun. Got a pentakill in the SBL last year. And now he's kicking it back with the homies here in the SCC.
Yeah, I've got high expectations for Johnny. I
You
mean,
should do well.
I had high expectations for him all year last year, and he lived up to it at times. Very difficult to play in the circumstances with which he was, but now that he's playing on local ping, he's able to group up with a squad that he's got a lot of experience with. I think that he is going to find his home here and potentially make a run for the SPL later on in the year. But got to talk about Habwa jungle and how it's been fringe meta in the past. At times it's been a top pick jungle as well. Now I would argue probably a little bit more so just a comfort pick. Itori, though, doesn't have any comfort available to him.
Ooh, gets locked down as well, no health, and can't go into the wall. Rapio with a good gank comes over and gets first blood in the game. Ravens immediately up to a small lead.
They are. That's the tough part of escaping on Klina, right? Like, you just want to walk into the wall and you're immediately putting yourself in a position where it's very easy to apply damage to you. You're not juking. You're literally standing against a wall. So.
And they know where you're going to go, right? Like, that was a straight line.
And solo lane walls are tiny, by the way. They're not the exact best way to escape those situations. Rapio did not have the ultimate just yet, so maybe had he got in there, Itori would have survived, but not the case here. So back to Habwa in the jungle.
Yeah.
Does a lot of damage, scales very quickly.
You can't talk about it. E-Chrome is now in trouble here, and it's Rapio putting up 2 in this game so far. With a gank on right, immediately followed, runs over to left, and it's making his name pretty hard to keep out of your mouth.
Yeah, I'm going to not talk about Johnny anymore because it feels like Rapio is just going to kill somebody if I do, so don't want that bias to ring through on the cast, so instead we're going to have to look elsewhere, and I think the best place to look. Yeah, we can talk about Osiris jungle. It is really dependent on how strong your early game is, especially if you pick up a Mannequin Scepter. It's something I said about Erlong Shen yesterday. If you're picking up Mannequins and you're playing an auto-attack warrior jungle, you probably want to get involved before level 7, at least 1 kill, a little bit of damage, something on the map to help out your team. Rapio's done. Already 2 kills by the 4-minute mark, both kills on him. But in spite of it all, Johnny has maintained level parity. He's level 6 to Osiris is 6. Gold is not too far apart. 3,200 for Johnny and about 37 for Rapio. That's essentially just first blood. The farm for this Habwa has been very good.
Johnny just all over the place, not necessarily in terms of map pressure, although that might be changing right here. Goes for the slow onto Mogao, helps the Tori speed up as well. It's a fight over the blue buff. Whether or not they can actually get something going is going to be a different conversation. Damage is going to be good. Stolen away thanks to Rapio and picked up by Mogao. Ult, the epic uppercut thrown out by Mogao. And it's just a little bit of space created. And that's going to be the difference of what an Osiris can provide at level 6 versus what Hebo can provide at level 6.
Yeah, that and Johnny actually just missed every ability. He threw out like 3 water hands, didn't connect a single one, and missed the knockup as well. So not much Habwa's going to be able to do there. I would argue now that he's got Divine Ruin, he's like actually pretty strong. 3-1 ult combos probably going to shut down just about any squishy from the Highland Ravens, maybe with like 1 more ability from an ally. So Definitely a threat on the map. Still has level parity despite not getting experience for that blue buff and spending a lot of time trying to defend it. Johnny's doing just all right. I think all he has to do is bide his time. Sure, Rapio is making his presence known on the map, but even looking at everybody else for Hex Mambo, there's no level leads anywhere. Just maybe one in solo, and that's it.
Yeah, not a whole lot created for them. It's just sent through the realms. Coast not playing around with what this Fafnir can do. Trix Tank body blocked in, and another kill going to the jungler here for the Ravens. Rapio just making sure they are ever present. They're going for a little bit more. If that slow connects, maybe having a different conversation. Good thing about the Hobwa carpet, does immune all slows when you're standing on it, so I guess ideal against Osiris, except for the whole he's still kind of killing you dead thing.
Yeah, you're also helping out your allies, too. So if somebody's isolated by Osiris, you could drop the water carpet and have them use it to escape. I think it is a very good matchup for Hobwa, and eventually we're going to hit an inflection point where Rapio's not going to be allowed to line up against Johnny.
Yeah.
Eventually, this Hobwa is just going to do too much damage to be responded to. Rapio more so about consistent damage in a team fight come mid to late game. It's Osiris' ability to stick to you and consistently apply those autos, whereas Johnny just like has to land that first rotation of abilities, and all of a sudden, this Osiris is not allowed to stick around.
Well, it looked like on right they were expecting maybe an invade on the blue buff again, didn't end up coming through. And so Itori just gets one this time around and finally feels, I guess, a little more confident in the lane. You had mentioned the lane matchup, and I think Itori is like slightly behind, but it really doesn't make that big of a difference. You had also called it out earlier. I think we just saw Echrome hit 8 like a half second before Coast did. So even when you look at experience, the only quote-unquote deficit is zeros here, and Persephone feels pretty good late game. You also see it there in the jungle. And guess what? Hebo feels pretty good late game, so I feel like this is going to be something that Hex Mambo are okay with this pace. And you had mentioned it earlier as to whether or not you could keep it slow when you're going up against a team like Hex Mambo here. And they seem to be the ones who actually want it that way.
Yeah, they've gone for a much more scaling-dependent draft than I'm used to seeing from the squad. And looking at the composition of Hex Mambo holistically, they do not have a very strong front line. Itori is going to go generally towards maybe some bruiser items, but I'm thinking a lot of power on this clean. Inherent survivability by Soul Eater, just once that's fully stacked up, giving you ability lifesteal, going to allow you to stick around these fights more so, but you don't have any traditional CC. I would argue probably the strongest CC that she can apply is that slow in a team fight from her ultimate. Other than that, it's Trix Tank with the hammer on Fafnir, maybe burning out these beads. Maybe you have Echrome do it with the ultimate, but generally all single target, Highland Ravens are going to be very safe.
Trix Tank got pulled around and is getting bullied slightly, but not enough that I think he feels fully in danger. Rapio and Johnny getting into a small collision, throwing some damage back and forth. A lot more being thrown at Johnny than in return. And it ultimately seems like this isn't going to go anywhere. I thought Rapio was going to look for something big with the positioning Trix Tank was in, that he was going to maybe Lord of the Afterlife in, and they might not be stopping just yet. Mid-camps are the real big contention point for them, but they do fall back finally, and Hex Mambo, I guess a little worse for wear. The farm ends up going towards the Ravens.
Rapio just doing so much damage right now, just poking out whoever steps forward. Trix Tank, too low HP, I think, to get involved in any of these team fights. Going to have to resustain or head back to base before he's able to do that. And even if there is a commitment from Hex Mambo, who have got good CC lockdown from zeros, the Grasp of Death can be good in these scenarios. It's still generally going to be single target damage, and Eye Silence hovering nearby on this Kepri is going to dissuade you from wanting to engage. I think it's going to be pretty clear on when Hex Mambo is willing to take a fight, and it's all going to revolve around Johnny for the next couple of minutes. If this Hobwa is nearby, maybe we see the Chaos team make a proactive play. Otherwise, it's all about this farm, and so far, the farm has been going well for them, but the Highland Ravens are going to be able to start pushing that lead shortly. 2,000 gold, just about. Objectives becoming feasible as we approach the 10-minute mark. Experience slightly favoring them as well. Gold Fury, Pyromancer, both great options to force a POI, force Hex Mambo to step out of these towers.
Well, Shogun's Kusari, not something you're used to seeing, or at least I'm not used to seeing, on a jungler. Picked up there by the Osiris, so expect to see Rapio and I guess Coast, and I guess Sap. Realistically, just those two, Rapio and Coast, swinging a little faster in some of these fights when they're together. And something, I'm a big fan of Oni Hunter's garb. not something we get to see too often, but Mogao's gone and picked that up. How do you feel about this? Like, normally it feels like not only a fringe item, but like late in the build as well. But he's already gone for it like immediately.
Yeah, it's an item that's like deceptively good. Anytime you're getting percentage damage, percentage any stat in Smite is just generally going to be very strong. But the raw stat stick on it as well is very good. 60 magical procs, 200 HP, I believe, as well as some CCR.
Yep.
Means that you are able to stick around in these team fights very easily. It's an item that I'm surprised we don't see picked up more often. I think it really is just the passive on it doesn't get you the most value too early, but on a god like Kumbhakarna, who's already very difficult to shut down and in the soul lane, I think it works out just fine. No complaints from me. It is slightly different, but I think it's a slept-on item. That's all it is.
Yeah, I like picking it up. Again, it's usually
I have
like
never
the
once purchased it in my life.
You don't play a lot of like support or frontline though, do you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I play a lot of Smite.
You do play a lot of Smite, but like how often do you find yourself like playing a Guardian?
Here's the thing about how I'm 1700 MMR, so I don't get my roll ever.
Oh yeah, okay, that's
yeah, that a lot.
And,
often.
Man, and everyone in chat like felt some of that too. They're like,
he's
they're
just like me for real.
Yo, I never get my roll either, Mifflin. Me, I queue exclusively support. I almost always get my roll. It freaks me out when I queue in and I'm not playing support. Like I have like an existential crisis. I'm like, what?
So it's like Jeff Hinlaw.
What do you mean? Yeah, essentially. Like, and it's just because I feed so hard everywhere else, man. All right, either way, we can.
we'll cry together after the set.
Yeah, bottle it up for now and let it out later. And that's what therapy's for, something like that. Either way, we can look at this and gone back to a relatively slow pace. I mean, you know, Rapio got hands-on, 2 back-to-back kills really early on, really quick in succession. Now there's maybe going to be a fight over here in the duo lane. Coast eats the Dark Portal. Good stun from Trix. But there's going to be the res from iSilenced. Best case scenario for you, you're able to get the kill and you get the ult. Worst case scenario, this is what happens. So you get out of there, but you still get the ult. So feeling confident about that. Johnny's made his rotation over. Silence is going to get taken
stuck around.
down. There's some damage. Yeah, Ghost is low. There's going to be a good Crystal Trix tank. Not going to get locked down. Jungle v jungle going on around the purple buff. Johnny is going to be in a little bit of trouble, but he's got backup right here in the lane. Doesn't seem to be worried about that. Lord of the Afterlife healing is going to come back for Johnny. And now they're going to continue chasing him down. They switch targets to E-Chrome, taking a little bit of damage, but there's a good dash. There's the crushing wave.
Aegis.
There's so much damage being poured out, but not enough. Johnny is 1 hit away. It's 1-for-1 coast for Johnny, but Trix tank, he's getting low, and Rapio's here looking for the final blow. Not able to find it onto him or onto E-Chrome. And it seems like it's going to fizzle out.
And meanwhile in mid, Sap7 dove zeros in his own tower, picks up the kill, turns it into a 2-for-1 trade, favoring the Highland Ravens. And I think Rapio goes untouched for much too long in that team fight. Surprised to see Trix tank and E-Chrome willing to step up here. Rapio's very healthy.
Yeah, Rapio just wants to go.
Don't do that.
He just slams down E-Chrome, maybe making him rethink everything about that decision.
Trix, you sure?
And Trix, you just saw what happened. I understand. That obelisk, it's nice. That scepter feels great. Do you want to defend it with your life? I guess we might see. We'll look instead and see what happened over here in mid lane. And Mifflin, you kind of call it. He just killed
did
him.
it.
He just did it. He did. The Aegis was there. He didn't care. The ult was there. Guess what? He didn't care. And just gets the kill.
But it is an expensive kill. Costs Sap7 his beads and Aegis. So if Johnny's able to rotate through, should be able to make something happen. Only cost zeros his ult and Aegis, and well, you still maintain the beads, so CC immunity available up against the likes of Lamogao or even Rapio to a certain extent. Going to go a long way. That's super annoying for Itori. Just does not get the blue buff invade. Epic uppercut removes him from the map, and from there Lamogao very easily confirms himself that blue buff. I do want to point out though, great Aegis from Vaporish Coast in that last fight. Johnny lines up the collateral ultimate, and on the tail end, we see the immunity pop up for Coast. That fight would have gone very differently had Johnny got that credit.
Yeah, that's a look. Even early on,
that?
without a lot of damage, that ult can chunk. Ghost, I believe, yeah, just had to use his ult. CC immunity now completely gone for him, so something to be worried about. But a solo onto the Pyromancer. Rapio is just making their presence known. They're going to try to find a little bit more. Coast is going to take the crystal right into the waiting arms of Johnny. There's a crushing wave. He can't immune it this time. And Johnny finally gets one on the board for himself.
And look at the golden experience. It hasn't moved from last we talked about it. Highland Ravens, they're winning the fights, but they're not getting much after.
MoGao blinks forward and immediately gets stopped from existing. He's not allowed to move forward, not allowed to throw out any abilities. Good silence E-Chrome with the Dark Portal. At least stops that one. Purple buff gonna get confirmed by HEX MAMBO. Trix Tank stays alive. E-Chrome, Johnny are out of here. They're feeling pretty good about this.
Yeah, HEX MAMBO are doing just fine. Itori spending a lot of time in lane, farming up. He's going to be able to clear out that tower, so there's some global golden experience for the team here. Red buff, though, being looked at. Highland Ravens successful in an invade yet again, but HEX MAMBO, they've been getting invaded all game, and somehow they're the ones shrinking the gold lead. They're shrinking the experience gap. This game is
They just lost a Pyromancer.
It's like solidly fine. And they've got great scaling. We saw it. Johnny's ultimate already hitting for upwards of like 900 damage. He's starting to get a couple of these core items online. A slightly different build than what we're used to seeing from a Habuwa. Goes for the Stone of Binding in that second slot. But once he finishes up this Enchanted Spear, likely going to be a Spear of Desolation. That's it, man. Your Habuwa's online.
Now, Mifflin, we haven't talked about this. But I think this does deserve its time, and it's Khepri. Not just the ult and
oh, you're gonna do an impression?
I'm not gonna do the
yeah, say it.
The get off of them.
No, but say it like Khepri.
The get off of them.
Oh my God, you're so good at that.
Yeah, either way, I was going to mention the skin. He's playing Khepri Gun. He's playing Khepri Gun. Look at that.
There's a gun Khepri in the game?
Do you not know about? It was like a literal meme for a year. They got put into the game like a month ago.
Oh, I think I muted Khepri Gun like on Twitter.
Oh well, you know, understandably, yeah. You have to give credit because the transition, you know, in Olympians.
Yeah, but for Khepri between Scarab and Gun, you know, that was hard for him.
Yeah, honestly, you got to think about it. You know, non-living entity. He is shooting bullets out now. We'll see if he can sustain himself here. Good damage being thrown out towards Itori, but not a lot. That's going to be sticking to him. Even though HEX MAMBO are down 2-4, like you said, they continue, or sorry, 2-6. They continue getting invaded. Fights haven't been going their way. They lost a Pyromancer earlier. They're still closing up the gold gap, and honestly might still want this fight. Johnny's lurking in the jungle. MoGao's coming over here. The purple buff invade is going to be real. Mez onto Johnny. Epic uppercut to get him out of the fight. He comes crashing down, and Habuwa is immobile. There's going to be a crushing wave to get out of there, and that's going to be Johnny's ult. Suspended for just a little bit of damage onto Silence. Itori's here, but I don't know that HEX MAMBO have a lot to work with.
Yeah, I was certain that Johnny was dead when he didn't beads the epic uppercut. It might be a delayed death here. No ultimate available. That is the beads, and it is enough to get him out.
He's going to turn around even. Doesn't have a lot of healing to be able to come through into this. No lifesteal. And a good ult from Zeros, but do they have the damage follow-up? That's going to be the big question mark. There's the res from the Khepri, and it pulls Rapio right back into this. No kills for either squad, but a lot expended.
Itori, Trix Tank, both can get involved. Still, in the dragon form, Trix can close gap pretty easily. If he's able to stun anyone out with some help, maybe this chase goes their way, but instead it will fizzle on the map. I thought HEX MAMBO would try and get aggressive on a Vaporish Coast, considering E-Chrome dropped the Dark Portal off the offset of that fight, dropping it down to sub 50% HP, but it was a good engage from MoGao that stops that aggression in its tracks, and from there, Rapio very nearly finished off Johnny, but at the end of the day, you're able to strip away the beads from the Hebo. That's pretty big. You got beads off Itori as well. And all you do in exchange is trade some aggressive relics on the other side. Blinks used by Rapio and MoGao. You've also lost out on the horrific emblem. Rapio's a madman, by the way. No defensive relics for him. Going for a bruiser-style build out of the jungle. I think that Highland Ravens come out by and large ahead on that.
They've maintained a lead for a long time. Epic uppercut seems to be just getting used on cooldown. Itori is just locked up, does make it into the wall. MoGao doesn't seem to want to slow down, though. Okay, yeah, he is going to peel away. It looked like they wanted to chase a little bit more. They're going to get the blue buff, and Rapio's going to be able to fall back. 5-0 for the Osiris.
Yeah, chat, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the 20% HP threshold for Itori to get into a wall with that passive. Had Rapio just held on to Lord of the Afterlife, he likely would have been able to chase over the wall and potentially finish off that kill there. But I like the idea of Rapio. Drop my burst, immediately try and get this guy so low that he can't walk into the wall, but just not quite enough damage from MoGao on the other end. Kumakarna, great CC, great ability to lock down, not the greatest ability to deal burst damage. After that uppercut was used, there wasn't much left. So that means Ittori is able to walk himself out of there. While we're talking about unorthodox items, and we're going to be doing it a lot with Lamogao specifically, Stone of Gaia picked up. That's an item that used to be dominant in the meta, has a lot of sustain, great HP regen, a massive infusion of health just straight up, but no defense on it means that you are sacrificing a little bit. It's going to be getting value in these fights that go a little bit longer. It's whenever they group up around the Pyromancer, they group up around the Fire Giant, these objective dances, that's where generally you're going to get that value.
I might be wrong, but looking at most of what Hex MAMBO have, I'm pretty sure it's just triggered off of Johnny here. But to be fair, Johnny is going to be hitting him a lot, and that water spout comes up a lot. And so this is going to be a good pickup, I think, to just kind of quell that, right? That presence that Johnny is going to be bringing early on. You've got, you know, a lot of presence outside of that, though. I think Mogao has been in the middle of these fights. You had mentioned maybe like lacking a little bit of specifically defense here. But going for the Oni Hunter's garb and the breastplate, like he's got cooldown, he's got damage mitigations, he's feeling pretty confident, I think, about his protections already.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to pick up, the Cloak of Concentration as well, so he is going to be very tanky. Highland Ravens getting aggressive here, pull out the Gold Fury, trying to force a fight finally at the 22-minute mark. Trix Tank dropped to below 50% and was not even allowed to face check the objective. Gold Fury goes down absolutely for free. Hex MAMBO, they're biding their time. They've been doing it for a very long time at this point.
Yeah.
Johnny's level 20. Zeros is approaching 20. We're at 4th or 5th item for the majority of people in the game right now. Hex MAMBO, what are you waiting for? It's time to start putting up a defense around some of these objectives.
They're starting to show a little bit of face here. Ittori.
Nope, 0%.
Yeah, nope, never mind. I thought Ittori was going to go for something, but instead, he just falls back. Pyromancer is going to get picked up
Question mark?
by Raven. Yeah, I mean, at this point, look, you got Gold Fury, nobody stepped up. You took Pyromancer, nobody stepped up. Just go for Fire Giant, right? See what it's going to happen. Force a fight. Hex MAMBO is just going to watch it happen. I mean, Mifflin, we talked about it. It was like a 2K, you know, hovering around 1,500 gold lead for like 20 minutes, essentially. This is the first time it's actually gotten to something that feels substantial, and Hex MAMBO aren't doing anything about it.
Yeah, but even though this is the largest gold lead we've seen, relatively, 2,000 at the 10-minute mark might be worth more than 4,000 at the 23-minute mark. You're generally trying to limit Johnny. That's the guy you're trying to strip gold away from, and he's doing just fine.
Yeah, he's got a rod.
Probably going to be able to upgrade that one shortly if he so chooses, or even potentially finish off like a Bumba's Spear. That's going to be a massive damage boon for the Sabois once he heads back to base next. I'm just not certain that the Highland Ravens use their lead quickly enough to limit Hex MAMBO. I know that Hex MAMBO actually just have 2 kills, like only 2.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I've got confidence in their ability to turn around some of these team fights. We haven't seen them. Hex MAMBO, that is, group up as 5. Now's the time to do it. Fire Giant pulled out.
Hey, they're doing that thing you said. Walk up and just do it. See what happens. Doing their best Shia LaBeouf impression. They're starting it up. They're not going to completely burn this down. A little bit of aggression onto Ittori. He's taking a lot more damage, I think, than expected. Johnny as well has to play this carefully. Not a lot of mobility to get out of there, save for the ult on the Habwa. Mogao is going for the zone. I believe they leashed, they have leashed the Fire Giant. And it's just every now and then those lava pools going to be pulling up. So Silence has to watch his feet.
Pulled back out. So now the FX are going to ring true through the fog of war. Hex MAMBO, they realize it's pulled. They're going to have to start walking up shortly, but again, no great front line besides Trix Tank. How do they engage? Well, they don't have to. Fire Giant's not taking any damage.
I am embarrassed in myself. Silenced not even looking at the FG is tanking it better than I do when I'm actively paying attention to it. I'm like casually avoiding the knockups, watching the water. But Rapio gets caught out. Crushing Wave going to come up a little short, so he does not find the kill just yet. Johnny is going to get chased down, and that is where the crux of Habwa comes into this. Trix Tank has to leap over the wall. Beads used, E-Chrome's gone, and Trix Tank is getting chased, slowed all the hell, and his death is all but confirmed. Triple kill for Sap7 on the Tiamat, and everyone else on Hex MAMBO has to watch as they walk into the Phoenix.
This might straight up be game. Great CC from Lamogao. Delays the epic uppercut, but Zeros calls that one out. He's been playing against this guy for a long time. Mid Phoenix burning away quickly.
Up.
30 seconds left on nearest respawn, and if Hitori dies, that might just be it. Does limp away. Even then, Highland Ravens are healthy.
They're good enough to walk in here, and it seems like that's going to be what they do immediately. Walking in, Zeros
Yeah.
just gets deleted, and they're going to start up on the Titan. Not before killing Hightori, though. Although Hightori with a good dash, no healing, makes it into the fountain. They're not going to care. Game number 1 here for the Highland Ravens. All but confirmed, and now secured a lead over HEX MAMBO.
I would argue HEX MAMBO did not play that game. Am I fair in that analysis? Yeah. It was legitimately 0 fight back. We saw 3 objectives pulled, I think, throughout the entire duration of that match. How many Gold Furies died? I believe it was only 1.
I think it was only 1.
Only 1 Gold Fury dies. Nobody shows up to defend it. That goes to the Ravens for free. They walk
2
over to Pyro.
Pyromancers.
They do that twice. And then it's another Fire Giant where we see a slight engagement from HEX MAMBO, if anything, but having no front line, they weren't able to walk in, and even though the only front line they had single target CC, so he couldn't walk past anyone either. I don't know. They just bided their time, and they did it well. They kept the game close for 20 minutes, but not once did they try and win it.
Now, a lot of the gameplay was SMITE happening at HEX MAMBO. They, like you said, though, good farm, good techniques, except for the actual fight parts where that was all Ravens all the time. Rapio with some brilliant early game kills. They get an early lead, and the Ravens take game number 1. We're going to break that down, move on to game number 2 right after this. Ravens take game number 1 over HEX MAMBO. And Mifflin, they just kind of did it. If we're looking at the reality of it, or you get a good first blood over in right lane, I guess that's this side of the screen for you guys, and then a good kill over on left lane, and then Rapio was just ahead for the rest of it.
He was, but I don't know. It's an awkward spot where even though Rapio gets off to a phenomenal start, I'm not going to take it away from him. He dominates the early game. He's the only one getting like things going, and he does it very well from minute 1 to minute done. But the lead from that is not what got them the win, man.
No.
They didn't use that lead to force an early goal.
None of the leads prior to 20 minutes matter.
No, Rapio's like 4-0, like triple kill first blood essentially, and they're up 1,500 gold, and they're up 1,500 gold for the next 22 minutes. And then I can only think that Highland Raven said, "Yo, I don't think HEX MAMBO wants to fight us. Let's just do some objectives." And they just do some objectives, and from there the game immediately falls apart. Gold Fury, Pyromancer both go down for free. Fire Giant essentially goes down for free. Where was HEX MAMBO? Not there.
Yeah. I think that was the fight, if I had to highlight it, because there was stuff going on in duo where Johnny dies, then and it was a 1-for-1, and then they get the trade. But yeah, you look at the gold here. It's the same difference that you probably saw the last time. Hey, look at the gold here. It's 6 minutes later and slightly further ahead. And that's because, as you called it, they finally get themselves a Gold Fury, a second Pyromancer. Soon after. No, they didn't even need to fully commit to the Fire Giant. This is just how they won. And it was by surging forward and dancing around the Fire Giant for a few minutes and trying to force HEX MAMBO once again to bite on the bit, and they never did.
Not a single time. I mean, I understand that HEX MAMBO would struggle with a composition like this to take defensive positioning. Fighting in is going to be very, very difficult, but gotta think they could have done a little bit more than that. Johnny only puts up 5,000 damage throughout this match, about the exact same as his Fafnir. Yeah. Itori does good numbers, but that's solo lane, so I'm going to deduct like 75% of it. I just want to...
Solo lane damage does come with an actual modifier on it.
There's a for real asterisk on solo laners' damage output, but
half of this was attained not in team fights.
Yeah, I just want to see more from HEX MAMBO. We were gassing them up on the pregame segment. This is a team that we have very high expectations for. As far as name recognition goes, I don't think anyone in the EU SEC beats out this squad. Combined gameplay years in competitive, these guys have the most tenure. Wins, World Championship dubs, they got those. I just don't think we got to see much of it here in Game 1.
It'll be fun to see if they can make it bounce back in game number 2. This, again, could be all the weight here for HEX MAMBO. 2-0, especially to start things off. You had mentioned the name power. Great for the Highland Ravens. Not so good if you're HEX MAMBO. So we'll see what kind of turnaround alternatives they take. Jormungandr was their first ban last time, so not surprising. You had mentioned Mogao loves this pick, and it probably even more so since it's been a little more meta in the SCC over the last couple of weeks. Sobek gets banned away. That's just a don't let Trix have that god, period. And Kumba gets respect banned, Mifflin.
Yeah, that is curious. HEX MAMBO putting so much emphasis on Lamogao out of the solo lane. Because I would argue if I'm going to ban anybody, I'm probably banning Rapio, right? Like that guy dropped a 5-0 on Osiris and does damage all the way across the map. I wasn't allowed to talk about the game for the first 2 minutes because he was so busy ganking every single lane. We do see a ban towards Rapio here, or I would assume Rapio. We have seen a good deal of Nemesis in the solo lane in the last couple of weeks, but it is a pick that I do associate with him out of the jungle because he played it a lot back in the SCL. And there's another pick, I would argue more so, essentially another ban, Osiris taken for HEX MAMBO.
Johnny had a really good Osiris last year, though, so I have to give him the credit where credit's due. Should be an interesting pickup for him, like you said, kind of stripping that away. Chalk was banned out by the Ravens in the top 3 game number 1. Bacchus is what takes that place. This time around, again, something to stifle more of Trix Tank. And it gets locked in alongside this Medusa. So the Chalk, I would say, I hope I have high hopes for, because the Ravens did pretty well, or went out of their way to ban it. But Medusa has proven herself as a top priority.
Yeah, Medusa now in Season 9 now does damage to the wave with Lacerate, so her wave clear has gotten a lot better. She's got great 1v1 potential. Lacerate into Viper Shot just does insane damage
Yeah.
overall. You're able to confirm kills like at level 2 if you don't go for the acid spray, which now does have the anti-heal on it, as
Feels
you
good.
highlight. Yeah, you don't have to use your dash to make sure somebody isn't fully sustaining from an Aussie in a team fight. Feels pretty great. It's very easy to apply, especially in lane. I think that Chalk, though, interesting topic of conversation in that he is, I think, no meme, no cap, no April's Fools, like a triple flex god. If Chalk goes jungle, I'm not complaining.
Yep.
If we get Chalk and solo, I'm not complaining. And for some reason, if he goes mid,
Yeah.
I'm still not complaining. His scaling is good. Team fight presence incredibly strong. The ability to stay in lane, thanks to the scaling on the torrent, is just very, very good. And that is a multifaceted threat that now HEX MAMBO have to consider going into this next phase of bans. One of those flexes, though, has been limited. Ask Inbound, you could say Cthulhu has 2 roles. Ask anyone else on the planet, Cthulhu's got 1, and it's in the solo.
We did like 3 waiting room segments on it last year. And we were like, at first we were like, well, I guess we'll give it credence, and then like immediately we were like, yeah, no, stop.
No, turns out he doesn't have like CC. Okay.
He does get locked in here. I was gonna be honest, I expected it to be locked in, but for HEX MAMBO, because they banned Nemesis, and that to me was like, oh cool, we'll get rid of the counter to Cthulhu, then we'll grab Cthulhu. Instead, they've just limited themselves, so we'll see how well that ends up working out. Chang'e gets banned. Any other mid laner in this game, I'm like, why? But Xerus does like to play Chang'e. Thoth as well, something that has been very prominent. Persephone and Agni on the other side, so a lot of mages immediately stripped away from the
Glory to
potential
Athens!
Yeah, I think Zeros might look towards the Aphrodite. It's a pick that he's very apt to go towards, and looking at the rest of the composition for HEX MAMBO, link up with an Osiris, a
Bow
Camazotz,
to
even
your
Athena,
queen.
incredibly strong. I was so confident in the Aphrodite call. Instead, it's Hera locked in, and she's got great self-peel. The HP shield going to be very good.
Go
against
forth,
things
my
like
children,
Chakras, like
and
Medusa,
take over this
Describe that
land.
immediate burst. You've got your bubble buddy, Argus, to finish off some of these engagements. You've got a polymorph to self-peel as well, essentially acting as a disarm and silence.
Yeah.
It's very, very potent, especially against picks like Kepri as well. He goes for the abduct onto anyone that isn't you. Well, you're going to be able to polymorph him off and act as that ranged peel, and it's just a good deal of burst as well.
It's and maybe harder to time this, and especially have it happen in the middle of a team fight, but hit a Kepri as somebody else on the team's getting low, all of a sudden he can't ult them. That probably opens up some good opportunities for you. We can see if HEX MAMBO find any of those opportunities here, though. The Ravens already up 1-0. Game number 2, if they can put it in the books, they'll close out Europe with nothing but 2-0s. Which would be absolutely wild to me, especially for the start of first week, but specifically against this squad. We'll see what they have to offer. Hera has been able to bring a lot. This is not what I expected, Mifflin. I see Osiris and Camazotz. I guess last year conditioned me for Kama solo Osiris jungle. Instead, Johnny's on the Camazotz.
Yeah, I was along the same lines as you. I was really expecting this Osiris to go in the jungle just because of how dominant Camazotz can be in the soul lane, but the matchup between Osiris and Cthulhu is not so bad. Yeah, Cthulhu going to generally struggle to clear out the wave, probably going to give you a lot of space in the lane. And I'm surprised to see the Warding Sigil pick up for Tori, which is going to slow down his laning phase a little bit, especially considering Lomogau's already got some defense and power and some lifesteal from Vampiric Shroud. But the ability for Johnny to get involved on Camazotz, I think, is going to be much higher than it would have been on Osiris against this composition from the Highland Ravens. If Silence ever steps even a foot out of line, Vampiric Bat's great slow to lock down. You've got the ability to dive very easily with Bat Out of Hell. It means that you can remove yourself from the playfield, don't have to worry about this high CC core of the Highland Ravens. So I'm just fine with this allocation of the gods.
Rapio already. A ton of damage thrown their way. A good polymorph early on from Xerus. And Xerus does have a Hera you have to be worried about. Going up against it, we didn't talk about it a ton. I mean, got a good solo kill last game. Did decent damage. Like, Sap 7 just had a great game on the Tiamat and is now back on that Tiamat. So I anticipate another solid game out of mid. So maybe a little bit of a struggle there for Xerus to face up against just because we know it's going to be consistent.
Yeah, and Xerus does not have the ability to box very easily up against a Tiamat either. Well, for the first 5 levels, you're feeling all right. Maybe around level 5 to 7, too. That's where Hera's going to have a significant advantage. The burst damage of Argus is very deceptive, and then the ability to chase out in the tower. But once Sap7 maxes out that Primordial Onslaught, once he's able to get to around that 8, 9, 10 mark, I think there's going to be a distinct shift in the lane's power levels where Tiamat is going to start slowly outscaling. But considering the pace of Game 1 and how Zero's approached the lane previously, it was a whole lot of sitting inside of his own tower, or a lot of waiting. I think we might be able to expect the same thing here until some of these supports start to rotate out, turn into the 3v3 or the 2v2 in mid.
And speaking of supports, we kind of glance over at Athena. I mean, you had locked in, I think because you had been talking about Aphrodite, and that's when the Hera came in. It became an easy pivot conversation for you, but Athena's not often picked up. Again, a god I love to death. I think she is never necessarily not meta, because taunt is always going to be a good ability, but there is something to be said about the fact that she's not #1 right now. She doesn't do as much damage. I think it was the beginning of Season 8. She was like picked up in any role you could play her in. It was worth having her. So it's kind of weird to see Trixtank go for her.
Yeah, I was considering Athena. I thought she would be very strong once we saw that the Frenzy start was really popular in the duo lane, because she has got a very strong level 1. As far as Guardians are concerned, she might be one of the most oppressive level 1 Guardians in the game, just thanks to that dash. Has high damage output. When you pop Frenzy, it's going to do upwards of 100 damage at level 1. You apply the slow reach passive, you're bursting for like over 150 to 175, which can completely sway a lane while the enemy has to like lick their wounds or potentially even die on first wave. But not a Frenzy pickup. Instead, very standard from Trixtank. Worth noting though, Confound deals damage, so Athena gets that boon at least, be able to stop people from using Blink. But she is a largely inconsistent god, I'd argue. You can get a lot of taunts, sure, but getting the value from the ultimate, not incredibly consistent. Shield wall, very hard to use in team fight and pretty difficult to use in lane as well. So I'm curious to see how Trixtank pilots this one.
It'll be fun to watch. So far, the taunts, like you said, have been on point. Rapio's showing up in the lane, though. And guess what? Trixtank is a step too far forward. Rapio, once again, it's the Chungle for first blood.
Yeah, Vaporish Ghost had to make sure he got the laugh off there, too. So you better believe Trixtank takes some mental damage as Rapio picks up first blood for himself. And
a plus 1d4 psychic damage on top of the kill.
It's tough, man. Speaking from competitive history, and specifically speaking from playing against Vaporish Ghost myself, that kid has been a taunter since he was 13 years old, so like 6 years now, and I hated it. So I gotta think Trixtank
now
probably also hates it.
Is any of that for you inspired by, let's say, your team maybe playing up against Coast, him getting, you know, something like a pentakill at some point while he was kicking his feet because he wasn't tall enough to touch the ground in his chair? Maybe feels like some mental damage there. But Coast, trying to turn this one around, is incredibly low. Through the Realms was Eye Silenced. Lands back, does not have the Khepri res. But it doesn't seem like Hex MAMBO want to risk for it. They don't have the cooldowns necessary. Instead, going for a small invade. They get the experience and the offering, but not the kill.
Gore, you know, I thought about it for a second when you broke down that fight. I think the main tilt point for me was that I was not allowed to scream back at him because he was a legitimate child.
Yeah.
And his father was in the crowd, like, and he was like swearing at me, bro. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, do I yell at his dad? Like, what? There was no win. Maybe a win in the future for Highland Ravens, who've got off to a quick start. That's called a bad transition, and I did it. We're looking at the exact same lead that we saw in Game 1, about 1,000 at the 5-minute mark, and still not a whole lot of presence from Johnny. Johnny has done a very good job of keeping up in farm against Rapio, who has largely been fed in this set. But he has not been doing a good job, Johnny that is, of matching pressure or starting fights or getting proactive. Camazotz has head back to base, has picked up that Jotuns, has the potential to start applying some damage to these engagements. I want to see him do it.
You know, it's interesting because we always talk about it, and this is something that you'll hear the pros mention. Hold that thought. Johnny tries to get aggressive. Trixtank's going to be coming on his way. So they've got a taunt available to them if they want to get into this fight. Mogau's rotated out of the lane.
He TP'd in.
Itori didn't. And so it's all a wash.
Super surprised. That was a quick response from Lamogao. Says, okay, are they aggressing? I'm going to TP to mid immediately. Whereas Itori had just used his TP similarly back towards lane. So Lamogao doesn't even miss out on that much farm. He's able to get back to the wave, maybe just like 2 minions.
There's a good taunt. 2 people pulled in from Trixtank. The Hargus gets dropped. Rapio's taking a little bit of damage from that, but it's going to be
okay.
a pull instead onto Johnny. It's Camazot's not too worried about his health bar right now. But just like you said, should be okay. And ultimately, it's just but a couple of ults dropped. You don't have that available for Trixtank anymore. You don't have Zeros available.
No. Keep your eyes on Rapio. That's the go button for the Highland Ravens until Lamogao starts more consistently rotating out of lane, and then it's always going to be Cthulhu's ult to let you know when the fight starts in earnest. Otherwise, Rapio's ultimate, that giant AoE knockup and silence and just large burst of damage, going to be the initiation tool for the Highland Ravens. But 7 minutes in, not a whole lot of initiating happening on the map as of now. Exact same pace as what we saw in Game 1, and same levels of aggression that we saw from HEX MAMBO in Game 1. Maybe they're just waiting for individual plays, trusting that potentially Echrome might be able to get the upper hand over Big Portage Coast, but I doubt we see a Heimdall really try his hand in a 1v1 up against Medusa, whoever's piloting it notwithstanding. Maybe they're waiting for the ability to get that second relic at level 12 to start looking at these neutral objectives. Because I would argue in Game 1, there was a good chance for HEX MAMBO to just outscale come late game because they had a Hubwa in the jungle.
Yeah.
Looking at the scaling of both of these team compositions now, maybe it's like a 50-50. I might even give a slight edge to Highland Raven just because their team fight is so easy to execute on, thanks to a Cthulhu.
As you get a Cthulhu to kick things off for you, get a Khepri to give you literally a 6th man on the field. Zeros just takes a ton of damage in mid. Doesn't die, but it does get put in place and might be a TKO. It looks like just because Trixtank is hanging around in mid, he's going to be able to get that wave. But it is going to be some time spent away from lane. And those left mids are going to be spawning up soon, so you could see some aggression. Immediately, it's going to be the Oracle Harpies, picked up by Rapio. Doesn't seem to have a problem there. Trixtank dashes forward and is not going to be able to find too much about it. The thing I was going to mention earlier, and this is going back to Johnny's farm specifically, was the conversation about whether or not Silence is going to die here. And that's maybe the biggest one. It finally chased down. Camazot's sticking to him. Argus gets dropped, and they're looking for a little bit more if they're HEX MAMBO, but they're not able to find anything. No follow-up, no damage output to really stop down these mostly tanky targets. In fact, it's going to be Rapio instead who goes in. The ult's going to come in, but unfortunately for him, Johnny's up in the sky, and now it's Rapio down but rezzed, and he's going to be able to rejoin the fight. Shock has sustained, so not too worried about his health bar. Again, a lot dropped, except for bodies. They all stay alive.
I think the ultimate from Trixtank there actually saves Johnny's life. Rapio sets up the Axe Toss in its second ability combo, deals damage on the way through, but the damage mitigation of Defender of Olympus may have been just enough to make sure Johnny does not fall down. Lamogao TP's into the tier 2 on the left-hand side, making sure that Echrome and Trixtank cannot feel confident in their ability to invade, and he just forces them back here. That said, on the other side, Itori has yet to leave lane, so we'll have a pretty significant advantage as Lamogao walks all the way across the map. Already a 1-level lead for the Osiris, might jump up to 2, but that's just farm that Rapio is going to pick up. He's sitting very close by.
Cthulhu just looks so cool. He's just like running around the map. He just looks so cool. I mean, look at it. Like, that just looks so cool in the background. He's massive as well, especially when that ult comes through. Maybe we'll get to see what Mogao can do here. Like you had highlighted, a level for Itori, whether or not that's going to make a big difference. He is the team fight, I think, on Mogao. So kind of the balancing point for the two of them. Looks like I'm not going to be able to pivot into this. It's going to be a fight immediately. Some good damage onto Zeros. Johnny is going to be isolated from the lane. Ult not available yet. Doesn't have any safety in Relics. And that's going to be a second kill for the Highland Ravens. 10.5 minutes into this one. Now trying to turn their attention at least to the jungle. They're going to take away this Greater Scorpion.
Okay, Greater Scorpion taken away. I think we could look towards the Pyromancer as well here. HEX MAMBO on the back foot, not really willing to step forward again. Trixtank is Athena, so doesn't really have any steal potential. Toss a reach, I suppose, but that's only like 60 damage. Does not get there in time. And that is the first objective of the game. Goes the way of the Chaos team to maintain the exact same gold lead that we saw in Game 1. No, that's tell a lie. It's about 500 higher at the 2K mark. I'm expecting a gold 3 pool very shortly.
At this rate, they have a lot of control. And I was going to, and I'm going to go back to it, because I'm going to get this thought out one way or another.
Feel free.
SPL farm game.
Yep.
Is always talked about by the pros and the SCC whenever they come to the lands and they play against each other. It is always talked about as, you know, this next level thing. It's something you have to get used to. It's something that people have mentioned about the new Valkyries having to come in, and it's like, you know, playing at the SPL is going to be different because the way the game just functions. You're going to see, I think, some of that here. You know, you're seeing Johnny keep up in terms of level. He's, you know, 1 down right now, but farm has been going well for him considering that, you know, he's died once and not been able to pick up any kills. But realistically, with his experience, with Zero's experience, with Trickstank's experience, you'd expect this to be a team that could really pull a massive lead like we've seen in the past. And so I think that speaks, you know, levels about how the Ravens are playing this, the fact that they've got these leads so consistently and so comfortably.
Yeah, I think it's an argument more so that macro is not the most important factor. It is very important in a match, but the ability to team fight and choose your aggression is very much what will win you a game. As Vigorsh Coast, phenomenal beads to avoid the ultimate from Echrome and buy some time for the TP in. Lamogao back towards that tier 2 tower. Will not get there in time. Echrome and Trickstank on the retreat.
They've got Rapia over here. They've got Silenced over here. They want something to happen, and it might be an invade. Echrome tries to go for the purple buff, and that's going to be the go button for Mogao. Immediately, the knockups are going to be coming out. Turns around to try and control a little bit more of the fight. Trickstank uses the ult. The damage mitigations are gone, and Echrome's taking a lot of hits here. Trickstank goes down. Coast gets Echrome, and that's going to be a 2-swing in the duo lane. And you had called for it, a Gold Fury on the chopping block already. Well, that might as well just set it right in their laps.
Insane pathing from Echrome. Decides to walk into the jungle towards his own purple buff, I suppose, for the farm, but he saw 3 members of the Highland Ravens walk over a ward right next to his purple buff as he was pathing that way. Goes back in towards the lane, and it cost him his life. I think had he just kept walking towards the tower, he probably survives that engagement. Instead, it costs both duo laners their lives, and Highland Ravens pulling even further ahead. Second neutral objective of the game falls down. Gold balloons out even further. Experience balloons out even further. It's that macro play that you were talking about earlier, the experience of Zeros, Tricks, and Johnny in the SPL that is making sure this game stays at least a little bit closer in terms of experience in Gold. Only about a 1-level gap, maybe 2. In the jungle, mid's only down 1 level. Supports are dead even, despite an 0-2 start for Trickstank, but no team fight presence. Haven't seen a 5-stack even once from HEX MAMBO in the entirety of this set. Haven't seen an objective, a neutral objective fight even once in the entirety of this set. The Highland Ravens, they might not be farming the most efficiently, but they're just winning every single fight, and eventually that will net you a dub.
And we were asking for it last time around. Again, it was like a 1.5 to 2K gold lead for 20 minutes during the duration of the game. And well, Highland Ravens have finally been able to push that gold lead a lot heavier this game. 14 minutes in, they've got the 3,000 and some change gold sitting in their pockets. Yeah, 3,500. So feeling pretty confident about their capabilities. It's going to be, you know, essentially 700 per player if you split it up evenly. It's a tier 1 that they should have over everybody else. But you can see it, you know, a tier 3 finished in mid. That's just completed over where Zeros doesn't have one. Taunt just a little short there for Trickstank in mid lane as well. So, you know, little skirmishes like that, little things that are really favoring the Highland Ravens and giving them the bonus they need. Trickstank takes a lot of poke over here as well. Fury's down. I don't know what they're fighting for on the left-hand side. But it doesn't necessarily matter because they are getting the kills and the damage done on the Highland Ravens. Coast goes up against Johnny, and Johnny has to rethink the scenario. Does get a little bit of healing, but immediately falls back. And that's been happening a lot to the jungler. I saw him do something to mid, and the Tiamat had a very similar reaction. Sap is going under the tier 2. Knockup's going to be there, but the mitigations come through from Trickstank. The ult is there. Instead, it's going to be Rapia who goes in and just absolutely gets rid of the health bar Zeros had left. An easy, clean pickup for him. Sap gets taunted in, but maybe this is the fight the Ravens won.
Horrific Emblem is able to connect on a Trickstank, so he's slowed out significantly here. Ice Silence nearby. Does not spot out that pathing, so Trickstank does not eat the abduct and is able to maintain his life yet again. Zeros was completely out of that engagement, decides to walk back up once Trickstank uses the Defender of Olympus, says, okay, well maybe we could shut down Sap 7, does not realize Rapio is so close by, and it is an easy kill from there.
Silenced. Might be caught out here, a little bit of greed for the Obelisk. And that is going to be finally a kill on the board for HEX MAMBO. didn't even realize they were sitting on a goose egg until this point. So finally something going in their favor. But Midland, Ice Silence might not be worth too much. Rapio, on the other hand, is going to be worth a lot. Johnny continues to chase down. 2 levels down here, but it's a 2v1.
Oh, no.
Doesn't find the kill. And honestly, he's not in the position to try and turn this around. Sap is going to get the knock up, close the gap a little more, trying to find the distance.
Mogau's got
But
him.
you've just got a little bit of movement. Mogao with a really good pincer should cut this one off. There's the mire, and you got to think about where you want to go. Sap throws out the Minotaur and locks him down for the kill. 6-1 for the Ravens.
Over aggression from HEX MAMBO. They saw one go in. They got their kill on Eye Silence and decided to dive incredibly deep there. A kill on Rapio would have gone a long way. He's only 2-0 though, so the bounty not insane at this point, but certainly something that would have been a phenomenal boon to Johnny, who is now 3 levels down in the jungle. Caduceus shield finished for Rapio, so even then, maybe that was one of your only opportunities to shut him down. Now that healing going to be just insane in some of these fights. And 17 minutes in, much larger lead than what we saw in Game 1. Highland Ravens in a position where I think they could just group up, go to the Pyromancer. That'll probably take about a minute. Group up, go to the Gold Fury, the Oni Fury that is. Spawn up those enhanced waves. That'll take about a minute. We'll be at the 20-minute mark after that. Fire Giant's pretty good at that point, I'm thinking.
It's insane to me how smooth that gold graph is. It's not like, nothing about it. There's no spikes. There's no, like, I mean, I guess there's a little bit, and you can see where the Fury was done, you know, about 4 minutes ago. But the rest of it is just kind of like, okay, Highland Ravens just walking a gold lead more in their favor. Experience, at least, you know, for 10 minutes there was dead even, maybe even call it
Didn't
13
even take a
minutes.
minute.
Was dead
Nobody
even.
showed up.
And then immediately things start skipping back in their favor. Now, well, the Ravens are going to continue pushing that lead even further. A very steady decline since they're in the Chaos side into their favor. And to just clean, I mean, Mifflin, it's 4,500. No, it's 5,000 gold. They've got an Oni Fury finally to fight over. And it looks like HEX MAMBO are putting up at least a little bit of a presence. Not enough to get the Oracles, so Vision favor the Ravens. But at least HEX MAMBO are stepping up this time.
Gonna hope so.
Well,
and looking at the
yeah.
builds, I mean, the
Yet to be
damage is
seen.
good. We saw what Echrome was able to do there. Vapor's Coast in some trouble. This would be a great pick.
There's the dash, though.
Would have been.
Yeah, the beads were great. And Coast just maintains his life. Has the Aegis, and so admittedly, you do get rid of a big relic. Some damage being dealt to Johnny. A little bit taken out from Rapio's kit. Not a whole ton. There's going to be the Minotaur from Sap.
Ooh,
There's
good
going to be
ult.
Argus in response, a lot stronger than your Minotaur, and it's going to go for the chase down, but Johnny is the one who's low, and they're not getting as much damage in return as I think they want onto Rapio. You mentioned the healing, and there it is in full. It's going to be able to get Rapio right back into healthy territory. No kills come out, but a lot utilized.
Yeah, I think Rapio pressed his 3 key, and it regenerated 20% of his HP through a Brawler's Beat Stick proc from Johnny. So the healing from Rapio, certainly very hard to deal with. His eyes silenced, maybe caught out in the jungle, takes a good deal, but not enough damage output from HEX MAMBO. This has been a good defense so far, but now Lamogau's made the rotation. TP's in towards the dual lane for what feels like the 5th time this game.
Oni Fury kicked up. And this time it's finally HEX MAMBO. Proactive plays on the map, and they drop it in favor of the Ravens. Frenzy popped,
Good
aggression's
taunt.
there, and a great taunt, but now Mogao just wants to go, and Rapio goes immediately on to 0. So you've got the Athena coming in to help peel a little bit, but it's not going to slow him down. That is a 3rd
He's going
for the
crazy.
jungler, and he's looking for a little bit more. The axe, not enough damage to kill off Itori, but enough to get him out of this fight. Echrome pulled back in, and the statue is planted and made by Coast. They get 2 kills, and they can fall back for that Fury.
Deja vu, Highland Ravens at the 20-minute mark take a team fight
Ooh.
with a significant gold lead and clear out the majority of HEX MAMBO. 2-for-0 trade. This time, though, they weren't in mid for that dive, and there was a tier 1 tower in the dual lane, so no tier 2 opportunity for them. Instead, fall back, take the neutral objective. Oni Fury goes down, and that's going to spawn up some enhanced minion waves at the 20-minute mark. We can start looking at the Fire Giant for Highland Ravens. They haven't got the best objective composition, but their team fight is so strong, they haven't really had too much opposition come their way. They still have 10 to 15 seconds left on Echrome to respawn. It takes about 10 seconds to walk from base to the Fire Giant. If the Highland Ravens are quick, I think if they could just pull it out here.
Now this is, Mifflin, I really should talk about the Fire Giant. It is going to get started up here. Yeah, they're going to have the damage. So instead of going on what I was going to talk about, we'll instead keep our eyes on this. Atori around the wall, should have a little bit of vision, is going in for the deep pull. Trix Tank going to be joining them there, but it's going to be a 2v5 for the time being as the rest of the group tries to come in. Atori might have bit off more than they can chew. No, they get the leap out. They maintain their life for now, but the chase is on. Rapio wants a little bit more. The axe gets some damage out there, but it's not enough for the Ravens to full commit to this. Atori TKO'd, teleport is down. That should be an opening for the Ravens to at least maintain this ground.
And Silence is the only one that loses out on any of his own HP. Trix Tank back to base, Itori back to base as well. But similarly, the Highland Ravens have decided to reset. Highland Ravens go into that team fight with a lot of their relics on cooldown previously, so even in taking that engagement, probably just come out ahead. They're able to strip away the Heavenly Wings from Trix Tank, so good deal of survivability lost there. Beats still down for a little under a minute for Zeros and E-Chrome, so great targets to start looking towards. Speaking of E-Chrome, that damage output, very nice. Goes for the Tank Shredder build, trying to deal with this Cthulhu once he does descend into that madness, and getting that heat check there, I think E-Chrome has the tools to deal with them. That is a lot already. Aussie, Kinsize, Crusher, putting in work.
So far, the damage has just been a little too much for the Mambo to withstand. Maybe we'll get to see it over here. I was actually going to ask you about this because we got to see, and not often does this happen, the kills from the Petrify have not really been the highlight of the Medusas. We've seen a lot of good stuns. We really see it for like the slows to kick things off. We did get to see a statue that was planted and cemented over there in the duo lane. I don't know if they left it standing or not, but it was on top of a blood pool. And it just looked so cool there.
Is that
between
what you
the tier
wanted to
one.
talk about?
And that's what I wanted
fire?
to talk about, man.
Oh
it looked
goodness.
really cool. I dropped it for fire.
Okay.
I'm just saying we have some time now, and I thought I'd mention it to you.
And you're right. I wish it was here so I could agree or disagree with you, but it's not. So I've got zero data.
Yeah,
and
you
I
just have to go off of me.
I
It
just
was
gotta
cool.
trust you. Hey, fire's pulled.
Yeah, fire started up. Raven's going to be in control of this one already. 1/2 HP on the FG. Ravens are going to be looking for a little bit more. Another good taunt from Trix Tank, and then a good leap in, but it's going to end up costing Itori, I think, a little bit more than he bargained for. Good ult from Trix Tank. Make sure Itori maintains that life for a little bit longer, but the damage is just there, and it's pouring through Itori. Going to get taken down finally by Mogao, and it just took him a little too long. The chase is on. Who do they want to go for? Johnny, Trix Tank. Yeah, the jungler is going to be the easier target, but it's Camazotz, and he gets out of there. E-Chrome bullied one more time. The polymorph is there. Rapio healing despite all the damage thrown their way. It's a 1-for-0 trade. Fire Giant's going to get started up again.
Sap7 still full HP and has both relics, so can get aggressive just about anywhere he wants. Spots out Trix Tank, drops him. It's about a 1/4 HP. Forces that dash out, which means Trix can no longer engage the fight for his team. Does decide to stick around, though. Maybe goes for the steal?
He's going to be walking forward. Johnny's here. Sap takes
revive.
a lot, but there's the res from Silence. Still has the Aegis for Sap, but the Fire Giant has to get leashed. Too much damage dealt to the mid laner and to the front line. So they're going to back off here. Pyromancer spawns back up, and it looks like Hex Mambo are finally going to get themselves a neutral objective.
They will. Itori on the respawn as well. Doesn't have the teleport available, so it's going to have to take a little bit of time to walk back towards that Fire Giant. But looking at the relics across the board, I think it's Hex Mambo who come out ahead in that team fight. That said, 10,000 gold lead is pretty hard to fight into at the 24-minute mark. So Highland Ravens, despite having a relic deficit, might still have a significant advantage going into this next engagement. It's the ability to dive, I think, for Highland Ravens. Can they close gap? Can they get the zeros? If yes, that team fight's a lot cleaner. On the other end, for Hex Mambo, it's the ability to answer this front line of the Highland Ravens. Can you deal with Lomogao when he descends into madness? Can Rapio be peeled off once he's in your backline on his own? Because Sap7, sure, does a lot of damage, but he's only applying it to the frontliner. So Silence has great CC, great ability to keep people alive, but that's generally all he's been doing so far. It has not been a lot of abducts starting off these fights, and Vaporish Coast has been on keep Sap7 duty, keep Sap7 alive duty in these team fights. It was multiple taunts onto this Tiamat, and well, Vaporish Coast just standing nearby, making sure that Hex Mambo can't feel confident chasing out the kill.
Well, looking to put out a trap around the FG. Mogao's the one who ends up clamping on the bit, but is it going to be enough? You got to kill a Cthulhu. That's going to be difficult. And so they do get the ult. Maybe a huge play. They lose the Primal Fury, though. Highland Ravens going to be able to do a little more damage to this FG when they do decide to step into the pit one more time. They're going to be missing very little in their kits. Although a minute left on those beads for Sap, along with that ult being used by Cthulhu just now. Mifflin, it feels like this is Mambo's time to shine.
It is. Mogao has not gone back to base just yet either, and doesn't have the ultimate. Rapio taking a lot of damage here, but not enough people from Hex Mambo nearby to follow up.
They're going to get aggressive on the Mogao. Mogao sitting at 2/3 HP.
Great ult.
They're going to be backing away. Rapio has a little bit of separation. Johnny took a lot of damage to start this off and goes for the ult. There's going to be the slow, I think a little too short from Coast, and isn't going to be able to chase down Johnny. Fire Giant is going to be throwing some damage out there. Trickstank gets pulled in, and Trickstank gets melted down. Nothing you can do about it. Itori has teleported back into the fight. It's going to be hanging around the wall. Fire Giant started by the Ravens. We'll have to figure out how this concludes in just a second. Trickstank gone. Itori in a position looking exclusively for a steal, Mifflin. There's a lot of pressure on him to perform here, or else the game, I think, gets out of hand.
Like, it's pressure on him, sure, to get in and close that gap, but he's got Blink, he's got Ultimate, so he's going to have the opportunity to generate a coin toss, but it's a weighted coin toss. There's a mage on the other side, right? Simply just hits harder, so this Tiamat going to have the onus on confirming the objective for themselves. Trickstank's still dead for about 40 seconds, so going to be a while till the respawn comes through for him, and when he does respawn, not even sure if the Ultimate is going to be back up. I think that you don't leave this one up to a steal. You don't say, hey, Itori, go for the miracle play. It's, Itori, get in there right now and slow them down. Buy time for the rest of HEX MAMBO to regroup and push their way forward. All he has to do is slow down that DPS. Easier said than done, but he's got the tools to do it.
Well, we'll see whether or not they can make the difference here. Around the wall immediately. Fire Giant's getting relatively low. He's going to throw it over the wall, but not able to find it. Now he gets pulled back in. Silenced is going to grab him. Almost gets the root off the leap as well, but it's not going to be enough. There's the knock-up, the chase down, the slows, the damage. It's all going to be there. Itori now just trying to make some space for the team. And I think we know how this one's going to end. That is a very cinematic pause, but I think we know what's about to happen to him.
Core, we got to generate intrigue, man. Itori.
Man, is Itori going to die here?
I don't know.
Find out next time on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
He's tanky. I'm hearing some sound effects. Sure hope he's not dying right now. Make me look real dumb.
We'll come back and he's just dead. It's just like, yes, the intrigue, the mystery.
Look, we're in a position now where Fire Giant on 5. You're still waiting on some respawns. It's Itori probably just dead to rights. Could just start barreling down these lanes. It is a good deal of gold infused over towards the Ravens here. Maybe they want to reset, get ready for a siege proper, but I think you got to take advantage of these timers while they're there. I'd like to see them group up and just go for a Phoenix.
Now, if I remember, I think Trickstank either is about to respawn or just respawned, one of the two. And I know Itori looked like they were probably going to go down here. Creates some space, though. Pulls them back away from the base. Yeah, he created like 5 feet maybe so far.
A lot of units.
And so realistically, the question I think is going to be, is that enough to turn this into an end push for the Ravens? Or is this a position, especially with HEX MAMBO's like composition, to maybe bully them? And we can see, Itori, dead. He's just gone, as it turns out. And it is going to be aggression on the mid lane. But Mifflin, is this a spot where they can end? I mean, towers are gone. The Titan's going to be its weakest. They get a Phoenix on right. Is it going to be enough?
Well, ask me. I'd say I'd probably love to see them go for a push, but 5 seconds left on Itori respawn. Highland Ravens having picked up 2 tier 2 towers and a Phoenix and a Fire Giant and a 1-team fight. Probably want to back up and spend all that gold. So we're upgrading our starter items. We're finishing up the builds. We're upgrading the relics. And Highland Ravens going to be very confident in their ability to take this next fight. Whereas looking at HEX MAMBO, 50 seconds left on beads for Johnny. That's the only relic that I'm super concerned about. E-Chrome's got enough survivability in his kit that I think the Aegis is not going to be completely necessary to survive when you're defending a Phoenix. Could they have gone for the end? Sure. But this is the much more guaranteed play.
Still 2 minutes left on the power play for them. And the Ravens in a lot of control, Mifflin. What was a a regular 10K lead. Yeah, 11-1, 15,000 just about gold. It's slightly shy of being able to push that. But you know what? I'm going to give them credit. They're
17K.
still going to be able to try and continue pushing that. Yeah, a lot of experience separating these teams. Luckily, it's realistically only affecting Trickstank 3 levels down. He hit 17, though. And that's where that gold lead comes in, because he's not going to be able to update it. They're going to go for a fight in the jungle here. I don't know if they wanted this, but they are caught out. Mogao is surging forward alongside the rest of the team. Sap is even leading the way. That's how confident they are in their capabilities. They get a lot of leaps, a lot of disengages, some beads, and defensive relics burned from HEX MAMBO. And the Ravens feel pretty comfortable moving forward on the left lane.
Yeah, really good play from Lomogao there. With the grouping that Hex MAMBO had the taunt worked from Trick's tank, I think Lomogao may have just died. Echrome standing nearby with the tank shred build, Kin Size and Silver Branch now finished up. Maybe would have been enough, but Lomogao says, I'll just descend into madness, like immediately. Very good reaction.
Yo, what if
time.
I was crazy, though?
Yeah, what if I was just like too big and not tauntable? And it worked. He's able to force out some relics. Does lose out on a team fight tool, but now you leave it up to Rapio to carry that torch.
Trick's tank goes in. Good taunt immediately forces the beads out of Vaporish Coast. Itori tries to get aggressive, pulled back by Silence. The damage should be there, but they don't have a lot of follow-up. And Itori doesn't take too much. Rapio on the other side is just bullying Echrome outright, but gets Argus dropped, and there's a res. Once again, Silence proving the worth of this Khepri. And in the meantime, while the fight doesn't go well, the Phoenix goes down. There's a pull onto Itori, and the team wants to continue surging forward. The damage is going to be there. They kill the solo laner. Trix barely gets out with his life, but that's more than Echrome can say. He is dead to rights. Johnny trying to get out of this, and the damage mitigation is going to help. They're going to try to turn this around and go in. Silenced is low, but the Titan is the target. It's a double kill for Coast, maybe looking for more, but the Titan will fall. The Ravens will take this 2-0, and looking for the extra damage. They're trying to kill him. Not quite able to get Zeros in the fountain.
Yeah, it turns out alternate timeline bought him just enough time there, but what a one-sided set, Gore. I'll be completely honest. I was predicting a 2-0. I was not predicting a 2-0 to these guys. Dope logo, by the way. But just didn't get to see them, right? Hex MAMBO did not step up to the plate today.
I'm going to give him bonus points as well. That's my favorite color. These lights, it doesn't show up as well. Well, actually it does. On that monitor, it doesn't look quite as vibrantly blue as it does there. So I'm going to assume you can see it as vibrantly blue. It's not like that blue. It's like that like not quite turquoise, not quite teal. Yeah, teal is pretty much right where it hits. And it feels really good. It's this one, and I think Shabalba Storm, Shabalba Storm have some really good colors, at least that I'm partial to. They get a 2-0 here if they're the Ravens, though. We're going to break this one down and close out the SCC, though, right after this. problem child here, Mifflin. Welcome back. The Highland Ravens win this one. I wonder how. I think at least half of that went live. And yeah, that's the deserved face, I think, in reaction to that. Either way, the Ravens win this one, Mifflin. You called it as it was. It's a little lopsided in favor of them. Game 1.
Was it like 2 kills for MAMBO in game 1? Something like that.
It was like 2 kills for him in game 2, right? Or did they only get 1? They didn't even. Oh wow, they
Wait, it was 2. Somebody died to Fountain.
That's not like the reassuring nature.
No,
It's like,
yeah,
they got their second kill. They died to the Fountain at the end while they're trying to kill Zeros in the Fountain.
Yep.
After they did kill Johnny, guess what? In the Fountain. This one just feels like it not even got out of hand early on. I think it was just, the Ravens played the same way they did in game 1.
Yeah, the lead was more significant this time around, so I think the Highland Ravens can be proud of their macro game throughout the ability to establish that lead and transition it into earlier objectives. But yet again, the same weakness of HEX MAMBO rears its head in that the first couple of objectives that do go down, Pyromancers, Gold Furies, go down uncontested, pushing that lead even further in favor of the Highland Ravens. Before that, I think it was like 2,000 gold, but they go to 2 objectives uncontested, bump it up to 4, 5K, take a team fight. Now they're at 6, 7. And by the time we started looking at these Fire Giants in earnest, the gold lead was so massive that HEX MAMBO, even if they had decided, and they did, by the way, decide to put up a defense, would have been playing at a significant disadvantage. Through that disadvantage, HEX MAMBO were able to repel a couple of Fire Giant attempts, but only delaying the inevitable as we approach the Titan. 13-1. I think it eventually becomes like 15-2.
Yeah, and, well, realistically, they earned the 15 relatively hard. They at least earned 1 of the 2 that happened on the other side. And it was, oh no, they didn't even get credit for it if it did go through. So someone died to the Fountain. And
it was iSilence. He's got 2 deaths.
Yeah, he's got 2 deaths. Did not have the credit crop up there.
Only one to
for
die.
anybody on HEX MAMBO. So, well, hey, feels pretty good. He only died once to the team, and that, I think, means a lot to them. A lot of 20K numbers there on the side of on the Ravens, apologies, but they just did it. I mean, I'm going to call that the EU stomp, right? Because like they had a massive lead the entire game, were in control, still took them like 30 minutes to end.
Massive.
Well, like they had a controlling lead that could have gotten into something a lot bigger.
Yeah, they waited for the right opportunity to go for Fire Giant. No fumble style.
Yes. The safe play. And they do solidify a bunch of 2-0s here in Europe. Nothing but 2-0s so far this week. We can take a peek at the schedule. Again, the Gladiators, the Wargs, and the Ravens are the 3 teams to find themselves up towards the top. Of course, as we go forward in the weeks, we'll have like standings and things to look at. But right now, you can imagine it. 3 teams are 1-0, and 3 teams are 0-1. We'll see how that changes up as we move forward in the SEC next week and things like that, and see some of these teams maybe adapt not only to the meta, but to each other. But we also have to look at North America, Mifflin. Tomorrow, there's going to be one more in a set, and that's going to be starting at 11. Again, it's kind of the kickoff warm-up here for the SPL. There's going to be the Wardens versus the Weavers, and I'm personally pretty excited to see that one. Just because, again, what we've seen out of all of these teams, there's a lot of prominent names throughout a lot of this, and North America, at least this week, has been nothing but 3-game sets.
Yeah, I really am excited, man. The SEC, it feels like, have really been leveling up their game in the last couple of years. They really are getting a lot more name recognition. The competitive nature of it, the willingness to experiment with the meta has really gone through the roof. So I've got high expectations for these squads coming up, and I'm pretty excited to see how the differentiations are between North America and Europe.
And I'm sure you're excited just tomorrow to see Chinfu play again, right?
A big Chinfu fan over here.
Chinfu's coming back, and Mifflin is ready for it. We'll be seeing that again. That's tomorrow at 11. We're going to be kicking off the SPL in about 30 minutes. But before that, we've got Waiting Room, and that's in about 6. So realistically, stay tuned. We're going to kick off Waiting Room.
So early.
And then we'll be right back with some more fun content.